Good afternoon, hello, welcome to the TriathlonDan YouTube channel. I'm joined today by John T. Bayliss, and John T is, I'm going to call you a podcaster. I know it's early days, but I think you've earned the title already.
Thank you.
Now, we met a few months ago at the Derby 10-mile road race, and I think we should probably start there. I thought about turning this down, to be honest, because you put me through some significant pain that day. I was running in the race, and you came past me like I was stood still, and I had to absolutely turn myself inside out to catch you. And then at the finish line, we got talking, and you said you were starting a podcast up, so here we are. Now, this episode is going to be, obviously, on your podcast channel as well, which is...
Oh, the Work Hard, Try Harder podcast. I do know the name of it.
So I'll leave a link down below. So you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the usual places.
Yeah, Spotify, Apple, Amazon and Google.
Wow, what a list. So if you're watching this, it's probably going to be quite a long episode and you don't want to sit and watch a video, or you're going in the car or you're going for a run, go to one of those now, listen to it, rate the podcast. You've also had some other episodes with some much better athletes than me on, so go and check those out as well, and obviously you've got some more episodes coming. So I just thought this would be a good opportunity to share some stuff perhaps you guys haven't heard before, and also give you a mention on the podcast. So thank you very much for having me on, and we'll crack on.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you for doing the channel as well. So hello to all of your subscribers. I've been one of them for quite a few months now. Awesome. I got put onto you by my friend Chris Turner from who cycles in the club with you, and he's told me about all your ventures. So it's great to be with you. And one of the reasons why I started, like I say, I've interviewed a few kind of athletes already, but it's because I am like the kind of bang average trying to do everything triathlete. That's why I spoke to you about setting up the podcast, so it's been a good venture and good to find out a little bit more about people. And I suppose that's what I want to do with you. And like you said, I actually haven't gone into maybe some bits that we're going to venture into today on your channel before. So like I do with everyone, I just want to kind of start at the beginning in terms of like how you got into the sport, what kind of led you to where you are now.
Well, I've wondered, because I've heard you introduce other people on the podcast, and you've talked about what races they've won and what things they've done. I wonder what you were thinking about saying about me.
Well, so here it was. I was going to Work Hard, Try Harder, Ep.5. I'm here with Daniel Ward, aka TriathlonDan, aka Hey, with 2 Y's, DW on Instagram. He's got nearly 6,000 subscribers on his channel now, and that's only going to continue to grow. And he is well connected with the triathlon industry, both with coaches, both with athletes, and also with jobs, so I'm sure we'll get into shortly as well. So, but race-wise, this guy's a machine on the bike from the numbers that I've seen. And also, you did create a race for the first time last year as well in Derbyshire, which went significantly well. We had Laura Jane Gray talking about that race.
The best ones, the ones that I organise, I don't have to do.
Oh, you didn't race yourself? No, I suppose not. You've got to man the ship.
You see how fast they're cycling? No chance. Far too kind. Oh, my head is massive right now.
But don't worry. If I was being introduced, I'd have 0 race. I've got a lot of finisher t-shirts. That I think we both can say that.
Yes, excellent.
Yeah. So there you go. And one thing I was going to add to your intro is that he also drives a car that looks like a taxi. That also is representative of his t-shirt.
That's because it was a taxi.
I was going to ask you that.
Okay. Do you want to cover that first? Right, I drive a £500 car because I am not in any way, you might have guessed, bothered about my image. I drive a car that is fit for the purpose of chucking bikes in the back. One of my good friends in the cycling club is a taxi driver and can only keep them to a certain age. We were in lockdown, I wasn't driving, I was working at home. He had this car for sale, they wanted £500 for it. He said that you can pay and have the bonnet and boot spread if you like. I said, no, not a problem, it's £500. And here we are, 2 years later, the car is still running. So
it's great, it's unique, it says TriathlonDan.
It has a nickname which I can't say on this podcast, and Liz doesn't let me call it in public, but I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay, cool, great. we keep it kid friendly, we keep it PG today.
Good. But hopefully people get something from this interview.
Yeah, great. Hopefully, who knows? I think we can go all over the place today. I think with the kind of energy that we've had, especially from when we met for the first time at the Derby 10. So talk to us about your journey, Dan.
So my journey in sport, I suppose, started when I was a teenager. I might be going a little bit too far back from what you've actually asked.
No, go for it.
I wasn't really a sporty child growing up till about 12 or 13. I was quite overweight, and my dad actually then took up running. He was probably mid to late 40s, ex-smoker, overweight, went to the pub, typical bloke, I guess. And then he joined the local running club, which was Mansfield Harriers. Now, of course, I'm one of two, so I've got a sister, and Dad's in charge of looking after us for the evening. We have to go with him, right? So we were taken along to the running club, joined the junior section, and essentially without realising it, over the course of a couple of years, I transformed from being the kid that perhaps just played the PlayStation to the kid that was in the school cross-country team. And I was never like amazing, but I was definitely just competitive in my year group at school or something. And that got me interested in sport. Well, when I turned 17, 18, 19, your priorities changed somewhat, didn't they? I found myself out downtown in Mansfield more often than at training. But it is something I came back to in my early 20s. During that time, I tried to progress a career, have some sort of life, put on loads of weight, and when I was 23, I decided I really needed to sort this out. I got up to just over 20 stone, and that was it was heavy, it was bad.
Wow.
And I thought, what do I know? I thought, I know running, and I've done a bit of cycling throughout the years as well. I thought, well, I'll join my local club, which at that time was Newark Striders, and they did a couch to 5k. So I paid £10 and I did a 12-week couch to 5k, and that took us to April. And then I paid another £10 and did a 5k to 10k. And of course, there was about 60 people started this course, and maybe 10 or 15 finished it. And I was at Newark Striders for a few years, and that just sort of catalysed my journey take two in sport. A lot of people will be able to empathise. I got a lot of injuries through running, especially when I was running when I was heavier. We were just on the back of the Brownlee era, so it was sort of 2013, 2014. I'd started park run, I started to get a little bit competitive, but I was struggling to string together any consistent training. So I started picking up a bike again and then doing a little bit of swimming, which is something that is a common occurrence in my life. Then I started getting into triathlon, the standard way. I did a super sprint try, I think it was a go try, and then progressed through the distances, really got the bug for it. And I suppose now I'm still a mid-pack age grouper, but I've progressed somewhat over the last few years. But above all, I have an absolutely brilliant time doing it. I like pushing myself hard, but I'm just realistic that I'm never going to be winning big races. And as long as you're okay with that, you can still be aspirational, but just within reasonable means.
Yeah. So that really surprised me. Obviously, I didn't know that part of your story, and I don't know how many viewers of your channel would have known.
I haven't done many videos and that sort of thing, so I never feel like I'm finished. I never feel like I'm in a position to be able to say, I went on this journey and here's how I did it. I feel like I'm still on that journey. Maybe I should.
But if we go back to that Dan in his early 20s, when he's 20 stone, and obviously I think, you'd be one of many people who have kind of left school, left that kind of I suppose environment that kind of pushes you more towards sport, gone into maybe college, university, gone into work, gone down the pub for the first time, and then the second time, and the third time, and kind of got into that routine. So to actually hear you in your early 20s, you kind of had this moment where you're like, oh, I want to get fit again. Was there a particular, was there a particular moment where you thought, oh, I do not want to be this way again? Because I think you just glazed over that a little bit.
Well, I think there were many times when I thought, this isn't good enough, I need to be better. And like many people, I tried, gone on diets, tried to start exercising, it just hadn't happened. But I do remember one key moment. I had 14-inch waist trousers and they were getting a bit tight, and I thought, I cannot go and buy 42-inch waist trousers. So I thought that was almost the tipping point of, I really need to do something and make it a priority. And all those things you talk about there, life habits, and you're a product of your environment, aren't you? So my environment at that time was the young farmers, brilliant group of people, but they do like a drink. And it's not just the drink that was a problem. It was, of course, you're going away for a weekend, you're eating fast food, you're going into the pub on a Wednesday night. Nobody around you is doing any exercise. They're quite active in their jobs, but during the day I was going to my office job and sitting on my backside all day, so that I wasn't having that. And yes, I think at that point where I thought I needed to get bigger trousers again, it was like, I need to do something now. And also there were, I wasn't very healthy, I had skin issues, I perhaps struggling with headaches and stuff I knew that I wasn't very well. And when you look in the mirror and you're not happy with yourself and you do it every day, at some point you have to make change.
So just because, again, touching on this, because we're in January as well, because I think this is actually it'll be really good for kind of people to be encouraged by this, because obviously, January obviously comes with a lot of New Year's resolutions, people wanting to make a change. What was it like for you going to a running club, I suppose, again, for the first time, when obviously you're a lot heavier than you were when you went to Mansfield all those years back? What was that experience like? Because I think for some people that can be quite intimidating to think about going to a running club, because I think everyone walks in and thinks, elite runners will be surrounding me and there'll be no one like me.
Yeah. So running is something that I knew. I knew that at a running club there are all abilities. So if I hadn't ever been to a running club before, I think I would have worried more than I did. I think my personality, I'm quite extroverted, I don't mind being in social situations, so I wasn't too worried about that. And I'd almost make a joke of, I'm going to go to a running club and I'm going to get destroyed, and I'm going with that expectation. But in the local area, so in Newark, there were 3 or 4 running clubs at the time, and I actually reached out to a club before I went to Newark Striders. I'm not going to speak ill of them, but that club was not fast, and I didn't know it at the time, but that is I don't know if the right word's anagram. It's Newark over 35s and still trying, something like that. I didn't realise that. I thought it was a club for amateur runners, not fast. So I contacted them and said, you train quite close to where I live, am I welcome to come along? I'm running I think I was running like a 35-minute 5k at the time. Am I going to be nowhere near, or am I okay to come along? And at the time, I was very fortunate, I still am actually, under 35.
Yeah.
And they didn't let me, they said, no, sorry, we're for over 35s only. And I was mid-20s at the time, and I was really like put back by that. I thought, if you're trying to be inclusive and welcoming, like I only want to go and run with people, I'm not bothered about going and competing or doing anything. I'm not going to turn up as some teenager like drinking, or I don't know what they had against young people. Now they have since changed that, but that made me then reach out to the next nearest club, which was Newark Striders, and the title in itself did make me think maybe this is more up my street. It's not because there's also Newark AC, so athletics club. Right. Striders sounds like a lower level. There are some brilliant runners there, but it sounded more welcoming to me and more up my street. So, and particularly at the time of year when I did the Couch to 5k, I knew that there were going to be people in the same situation as me, some of them worse than me. If anything, I was trying to be confident that, well, I've done some running before, and I've been doing some running before going to a club, but it was sporadic, there was no routine, there was no structure, and I was hitting a brick wall. I knew I needed to go to a club. So yeah, I probably should have been more worried than I was, but the group at Newark Striders, I can't emphasise this enough. If anybody's listening to this who are part of the club, you know who you are. They've been a massive part of my life. Like at one point I got a medal for runner of the month or something like that, and obviously I wasn't the best runner there by long means, but just through turning up, doing the sessions when it's chucking it down the rain and so on, and that really motivated me. I still got a picture around about the runner of the month and things like that. I think make clubs what they are. Yeah,
so those little bits of encouragement you get along the way, and again, I mean, speaking for myself from being involved in a running club, it is a place where it's actually all abilities. Don't ever let the kind of names put you off, and I just think there's such an encouraging environment. And you know, like after doing triathlon for years and joining a running club just because of lockdown and wanting a little bit more community around the sport, because you know triathlon can be quite a lonely sport to train for. It's just amazing that the encouragement that you get and the kind of communities that are there. So we join the running club, we start picking up the bike again, you start splashing around a little bit. So obviously, are you putting 1 + 1 + 1 together in your head and thinking about triathlon?
Again, in Newark there were a few people who did triathlons, and I always thought, I'd like to give that a go. And people joke and say, if you're not any good at one sport, do 3. And I think that was the case. I knew that I was never going to be competitive in running, so I thought, maybe I'll go and do a triathlon. And cycling, and this sounds really silly, but I feel like I had I'm not saying natural ability with cycling. When I was growing up, I had a paper round, and then I had 2 paper rounds, and I liked earning a few quid. I liked being able to sort of pay my own way. If I was going out with my friends to the cinema or something, I'd have my own money and so on. And so from about 13 to, and I started a paper round when I was driving, at like 17 or 18, because I could do it that quick, and I'd one paper round from one shop and one from the next shop, but they're in the same area, and I'd go from one shop to the next with a bag of papers, sort of slot them all in where I knew they were, and get the 2 rounds done very quickly, cash in hand, brilliant.
And petrol prices weren't what they are today.
Not at all. And I'd so we didn't live in a massively affluent area, but a couple of miles away there was Berry Hill, if anybody knows it, which isn't like Mayfair, but it's probably the more affluent area of Mansfield.
If you've ever done cross country, you've probably done a cross country race in Berry Hill.
And so I got a couple of paper rounds on Berry Hill. Now I knew that I was quite good financially, because every Easter I'd buy a pack of like 50 cards, Happy Easter number 42 from your paperboy, and then the next day I go back and there'll be a card there saying Happy Easter and a tenner in it or something. And
great return on investment. That.
So I knew that was like my living, or the way that I could sort of like live for those teenagers. Of course my mum and dad would help me out if I ever needed money and buy me things, but it was just that sense of independence. But because of that, I was like driven to do as much as I could in the morning. If I got back to the paper shop and one of the guys hadn't turned up, they'd then say, I've got another round, do you want it? It's like £8 or something. Yeah, done. I'd go and do it. So I was like smashing myself on the bike 7 days a week for like 4 years. And I think that is pivotal in me being able to ride a bike now. So when I started riding a bike again, I had some ability that sort of came back because I'd essentially trained for an hour to an hour and a half every morning for a few years throughout my teenage years. And when I say that, people joke and laugh. They think I'm joking, but I genuinely think if you get up and ride your bike hard for an hour, essentially doing intervals for 4 years, you're going to be okay at riding.
And weight training.
Yeah, exactly. You're like lopsided.
You're hugely stronger on your right leg than you are on your left. You've got a few imbalances to address.
I remember as well, my dad, of course, was on his journey of being a runner. He would come out on, Wednesday Chad Days, our local paper day. On that day, the bag was twice as big. He'd come out on a Wednesday with me and help me do it. So, it's brilliant.
Oh, good foundational base training. Exactly. So when was your first triathlon then?
I believe it was I have looked for some pictures before, I can't find any. I think it was 2015, because 2016 was my first middle distance. I feel like 2015, I definitely did Doncaster Olympic distance, and I started off that year with doing a super sprint. I remember it was in Derby somewhere, and I got there and I'd forgotten a helmet or goggles or something. I had to come back home because it was quite close, I was able to do it. And I distinctly remember the swim being whatever half a sprint is, maybe 150, 200 metres maybe.
Half a sprint?
Yeah, so it was really short. Yeah, so it was like, I think it was something like a 100 metre swim, 10k on the bike, and then like a 1 mile run or 2k run, something like that. But that was fine for me at the time. Yeah. And I remember finishing that, and we finished at the deep end, and I couldn't get out of the pool, and I had to like dip under the lane ropes and get to the steps at the end. So I distinctly remember that moment. But I think that was my first one, and of course since then it was a slippery slope. And then I think 2016 onwards is when I really started to try and understand it. What distances do I want to do? How do I get better at this? What equipment do I use? All that sort of thing. So it's been a few years. I should be better than I am now, but that's not the point.
No, hearing you say that, I'm actually on a similar timeline. It was 2015, my first kind of sprint, 2016, first middle distance, 2017, first forward. It's one of those things that you think, I've been training for years for this now.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Someone's like ashamed when you say, you've been doing this long? No, not really.
But then I suppose when we throw in the balance of, and the reason why we're kind of here today is the fact that we've also got these day jobs that we have to attain for. Triathlon is a very unique sport in that, I played basketball and hockey growing up. You train once or twice a week, and you play at the weekends. And actually training twice a week, once you're working, that was seeming a lot. With triathlon, it's like you almost feel like you have to be training at least 6 out of 7 days a week, to kind of keep up with the pace of it. So
I describe triathlon as relentless. There's always something you can be doing.
Yeah. I don't know about you, sometimes I think I call it like the triathlon tick, where I'm sat there, I'm not doing anything. Maybe I could relax and watch TV. But then I think, I could do a S&C session. Yeah. I could jump on the bike. A 20-minute run would be alright. The kids are in bed, But I think sometimes we do have to die to that to a certain point, because actually there's one way to sustain relationships and family and friendships is kind of putting that to bed sometimes, because obviously, you've got Liz here. She's in the background somewhere. Liz?
She thinks she's gone outside.
She's gone outside now. I thought we were going to get a little hello on the podcast there. She's gone outside to tend to the chickens.
We can't afford her rates.
Yeah, to be fair, you haven't got kids, but you have got chickens, haven't you? Yeah. So, they don't lay eggs, as we've discussed. No. They're not really paying for themselves yet.
Worth, but,
Yeah, but they look good on them. Dan's got a lovely backdrop here of looking over the fields of, North Derbyshire.
It'll be houses in a few years.
It'll be houses. It'll be sold away. So you start to get the bug for it, and then you start to do. Where was your first middle distance?
I was Outlaw Half Nottingham in 2016. So that race holds like a special place in my heart because of that. I had a bit of a crazy year that year, in that you start getting better and you think, I can do all these races. And that was 3 weeks after London Marathon at the time. And I did London Marathon and I thought, wow, nothing is going to be harder than that. And then I did Outlaw Half Nottingham and I thought, wow, nothing's going to be harder than that. And then since then you keep finding these events that are harder than that.
Yeah, I'm really. How did you find that transition from London Marathon to Outlaw Half? And there's a reason why I asked.
I found it more of an all-round body and mental stress drain, because running, you're just, okay, I'm going to hold this pace for as long as I can and see what happens. Triathlon, as you know, you've got 3 sports and transitions and kit and pacing, and there's so many variables I didn't know where to start.
Yeah. So okay, fair enough. I asked because I've got 2 friends who are doing Outlaw Half for the first time this year. Yeah. But they're doing the London Marathon, I think it's similar time, 3-4 weeks before it. So that's interesting. Brilliant. So you obviously start to get into the sport. We arrived to today where you're not just into the sport. I would say you're heavily into the sport. Yeah. You started up this YouTube channel. You've got nearly 6,000 subscribers now. But then, park that for a second, you've also got your day job, which is with British Triathlon.
Yeah.
So how do you, I believe you're in probably one of the best environments for encouraging what you're doing, but how do you still find the balance of the work, the training, and, going about it?
So people you've had on this podcast up to yet have all been had really intense jobs, long hours, and so on. I know it's a big sales pitch for come and work at British Triathlon, but genuinely, I'm very lucky where I am in that we govern the sport of triathlon. So if there's ever a workplace that understands wanting to go for a run at lunchtime, it is British Triathlon, isn't it? So it happened a bit by accident. We lived in Norfolk at the time. This was 4 and a bit years ago, and we were looking to move back up here where we grew up, near Derbyshire. And I was looking for, I'm a HR manager, I was looking for a role within the HR sector, but I wasn't actually too focused on, okay, I want to be a certain level or a certain place. We just wanted to get a foot in the door somewhere, move house, and you can only focus on so many things at once, right? So I thought, let's get the house situation sorted first. And then whilst I was looking for a role at British Triathlon came up, and it was part-time, and it wasn't quite at the level I was working at the time, but I thought, you know what, that sounds brilliant. Obviously, I want to work and go and train with the brownies every day. I'm sure you do that.
Was that the image you had in your head? I will be the HR manager and be able to train with the brownies.
Turned up to the interview in a tri-suit. And then, long story short, been there since then. So it sort of happened a bit by accident, but I absolutely do not look back at all. And if I'm honest, I think I'd struggle to work in a normal environment. Like the conversation we're having now, this happens by the coffee machine, this happens in the office when we're talking about sport. I'll say, I'm doing the outlaw half. Oh, just a half, is it? Yeah, whereas in other workplaces, it's, oh my God, you're doing what? You weirdo.
They're like, what? Sorry, you do that all on one day?
Yeah.
I think that's the most often question I get, from my workplace. My workplace can't believe me sometimes. They're like, I don't understand you. But in British Triathlon,
so it feels more normal, and it's definitely a place that believes in a good work-life balance. And the chief exec follows me on Strava, so I can't hide anything. There's no how much training people are doing.
Dan, you said you're in a meeting.
Yeah.
But then on your Strava, you went for a 12-mile run. I'm just trying to connect the two together.
The conversation's not happened yet, but so it's been brilliant since I've been there. And my day job is probably a normal office job. So there's some routine tasks, some more complex things. Some weeks are tougher than others. My working arrangement is that I work on a hybrid basis, so I spend some days in the office in the week and some days at home. So I'm able to structure the training week around that. You know that if you're commuting and working in an office, you're going to be there for longer hours, so you're not going to be able to do as much training or as live stuff. So I just try and plan that around it. But I appreciate I'm in a luxurious position to be able to do that. I can probably have more opportunity to train than most. We're on the Loughborough campus, university campus, so again, there's a massive reality check that you think you're a good athlete until you go for a run and you see 20 athletes that are way better than you. We were out running the other week and with one of my friends at work, and running the opposite way with Sophie Caldwell and her partner Tom Evans. Okay, well, we're absolutely nobody, are we?
So you're one of the best triathletes in the country at the moment, and also one of the best ultra runners on the planet.
Jess Judd came flying past us a few weeks ago and stuff. So it's really grounding, but it's a brilliant facility. And I've been struggling with a bit of an injury recently, and there's a deep pool at Loughborough, so I've been able to aqua jog, and that just doesn't exist around here. So those facilities are something that I definitely try and make the most of. Probably need to capitalise on those a bit more, to be honest. But so I'm not sat here claiming that I do some really tough job that takes me 60 hours a week and I still manage to train around it. I still work full time, nearly 40 hours a week, and some people say that's not full time. That's fine. But you sort of plan your life accordingly, don't you? I know that there's no point in me sacrificing my life to train 20 hours a week, because that's not going to make any difference to my life. If I can train 10 hours a week, which I think is a good amount of training, and maintain my relationship and work and social, then that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I mean, because you touched on something at the beginning of the conversation around your social circles, obviously being the young farmers at the time. I mean, just to bring that into the balance, what do your social circles look like now? Have they changed, or is there just a more of an understanding with your friends when you're like, oh, I'm not coming tonight, or I'm, like I do often, I'm going home early because I've got this training ride in the morning, or
So I think my social circles have changed, because you spend that much time you go for a bike ride, 3 or 4 hours. That's a huge amount of time you're spending with people who you're riding with, if you're riding with somebody. So my social circles have changed a bit over the years. Sure, I still talk to those people who I'd go to the pub with a few years ago, but I'm not really going to go to the pub in an evening and catch up with them, because I don't want to sit in a pub and drink beer all night. So my social circle is probably like my cycling club and triathlon friends. Sure, I've got a few friends that aren't into sport at all, but it is harder to connect with them when it becomes a big part of your life. It's your hobby and it's your passion as well. So I definitely think that most of my friends are in the triathlon world, or at the very least, active people who enjoy sport.
Yeah, you find it shifts a little bit, don't you, kind of thing. And I think, and actually, as you go on, we're both sat here now in our 30s. It's just like life pivots a little bit.
And I'm not against it changing again in the future. Like, I know that 10 years ago I enjoyed the pub, and now I enjoy triathlon. Or maybe in 10 years I'll enjoy golf or something. I'm not saying I'm going to be a triathlete forever, but I just know that in order to live a hopefully long and happy and healthy life, I do want to be doing some sport. So something active will always remain a part of my life, I hope. Yeah,
keeping healthy is absolutely paramount. So that I think that's only been reinforced over the last couple of years, in terms of everything that we've lived through. So you're doing triathlon, you've done your middle distance, you're getting more into the sport, then, TriathlonDan is created, I suppose. What did lead you into, kind of wanting to share your journey with so many?
People are thinking he loves the sound of his own voice, and maybe that's true. So 2018.
By the way, we're sat here on a podcast. I have to listen back to all the time, so people think exactly the same about me. You're in good company right now.
Perfect. 2018, I'd entered Ironman UK, my first Ironman, and I really wanted to do it. And if I'm honest, I was struggling with the training. I was struggling to commit to it, to do finish sessions. I was a retained firefighter at the time alongside my day job, so I spent a lot of time at home. So a lot of indoor sessions, people listening will understand they're difficult to get through. So I thought, right, how can I be accountable? And as silly as it sounds, I thought, right, I'm going to start a YouTube channel up. When I say, I sit there and I say, right, I'm going to do 3 times 20-minute sweet spot today. Well, I know that if I don't do that, I'm going to either have to make up an excuse in the video and then put it up and look a bit of a fool, or I get it done. And the effect that had on me was large. I definitely trained better because of it. As well as that, I followed loads of people online that was motivational to me. Fit people like Cycling Maven, the Durian Rider, loads of sports people. It wasn't as big back then, but anybody who was putting any content up about training or racing, I really enjoyed. So I thought, right, well, if I can put something up there that people will enjoy, then maybe people will get something from that. And a lot of the people you watch on the internet are very good, and I was aware that I was probably, especially in 2019, probably above average, but I was by no means elite. So I wanted to make the effort to put somebody who isn't elite out there, because 95% of people aren't elite. So I'd hope that people would relate to it. And if I'm honest, that was very sporadic at the beginning. There's no strategy. There's still pretty much no strategy, if I'm honest. And it took a long time I remember getting 10 subscribers, hassling people at work and Liz to make a Google account and subscribe to me. And then getting 100 took I think it was 6 or 7 months at least. And I remember, and to be fair to him, he doesn't take the mickey for me for this, he should do. In 2019, I saw Harry Palmer at Staffordshire 70.3, and I went up to him and I said, I love your YouTube channel, I've started one myself, you're a big inspiration to me, all that jazz. But that's true, people like that were an inspiration, and it's sort of snowballed since then. And if I'm honest, some of it I do because I think people get something from it, either entertainment or education, but some of it I do because I just like making videos and having the memories. If I look back at, I keep using Outlaw Halves as examples, but I know if I look back at an Outlaw Half video, I really get the emotions of that day. I see myself in the moment. I hear the excuses I'm giving about why I didn't win the race and all that sort of stuff. And when we go away, we've just been to Wales for a few days over Christmas, I've got 3 or 4 videos from that. We look back at that, and occasionally we will sit and look back through videos. And I really enjoy having those memories. So yeah, and I think people, definitely my cycling club, there are a few people who really like being on the videos and having a document, something to reflect. Our Sunday ride, I had one a couple of weeks ago, went out for a long ride in the Peaks, and my friend Lee left a dog bowl at a pub in Derbyshire somewhere, so we went off the club ride and we went and got this dog bowl, and on the way back he wasn't feeling too good, so we nursed him home, and he'd done loads of miles, and just a bit of a story, a bit of an adventure. And those memories fade after time, but they're immortalised in the video. And when I put that video up, he messaged me and he said, I absolutely love that. I'm grinning ear to ear, I think he said. What a great day, let's do another one. I was like, yeah. Cool. So that's things like that sort of motivate me with it.
Yeah, good. Well, I mean, that's how I kind of came across you. We've got a mutual friend kind of in the cycling club, and he was like, oh, have you heard of this guy? And I was like, oh no. Come across your Instagram, then that leads me to your YouTube, and then I star in one of the videos.
I think you're the best time.
At the Derby 10 mile. But genuinely, I got to Derby 10 mile, and I actually recognised you at the beginning, but you had your headphones in. I was like, oh, he's getting in the zone.
That's right.
He's getting in the zone. I won't mess with him right now. I won't play my mind tricks. I just pass him at the speed of light. No, I remember that race. It was I haven't done a running race for ages, and then I kind of went out and survived. But it was cool, like getting to talk to you. You know, if you listen to the podcast, and obviously you're watching, so you already know about him. But if you listen to the podcast and you haven't checked out Dan, I will be putting all the links up in the episode description. But things I would say is that it's not just entertaining, it's just real and authentic stuff as well. Like, Dan doesn't really hide anything. He's real about his situation, like his recent injury. He does put it into perspective, because is it a toe?
Yeah.
He broke a toenail? Or So do go check it out if you haven't already. What has been the kind of you talked about the kind of momentum shift there, but obviously I believe there's going to be encouragements that come from the channel. What's been some of your biggest encouragements over like the years when you've been doing it?
Well, when you go to events, you're in this little world of triathletes, aren't you? So it's mainly triathletes that watch the channel, or cyclists. When you go to an event, somebody might have seen a video, and when somebody who you don't know says to you, I watched this video, like Outlaws, for example, I do a lot of like bike course recce videos, or here's my 5 tips to get around this bike course faster, based on I've done them that many times. Hearing those things makes you think, yeah, I will continue doing this sort of thing, because somebody gets something from it. Of course, occasionally you get comments that are constructive or aren't very pleasant, but I always just think, well, I haven't charged you anything for this, so
you still watched it.
Yeah. So there's loads of things like that, but also it's enabled me to meet so many people as well, because people see it as a platform perhaps that for them. So I've got a few things in the pipeline in the next few weeks, this included, where I'm meeting up with somebody, and part of it is because, let's do something together. Part of it is, okay, this platform appeals to that person, maybe it'll benefit them, and vice versa. So because of that, we're going to do something. And so I look forward to doing stuff like that. But there's been so many cool things happen, like meeting people I've met, and you don't realise what connections people have and how great the like triathlon community is, and I never take that for granted. And it's just a bit of a whirlwind sometimes at events, because you go to like Tesco and nobody knows you from Adam, and then you go to an event and a few people say, I've seen your videos. It's a bit weird.
But I'm sure most triathletes feel that way anyway. I think most triathletes could walk around. It's like you talked about Tom Evans the other day. I was doing one of my regular routes, and we went to Cafe Velo Verde.
Yeah.
Have you been there?
No, I've heard of it, seen it on Instagram.
You absolutely need to go there. Amazing cafe, just in South Nottinghamshire, in a place called Scroverton. But yeah, he was sat there, and my running club also had a trotters. He mentioned multiple times how you're his inspiration for going ultra, because he knows when he's doing 2 miles, you've already done 90, right? But he was just sat there, and my running club was sat there, and I'm like, this is literally one of the top 3 ultra runners in the world right now, and none of you know. Yeah. So don't worry, you're not the only one who walks around Tesco and gets away with not being known.
I remember there's a couple of things that blow away is like Reece Barkley once commented on a video saying something like, good video, me and Lucy both enjoy these, or something, and he's probably lied. Lucy Charles has probably never watched a video of mine, but that was like, oh my god, Liz no, own it, definitely. Cool things like that.
Go up to Lucy at a race, old friends.
Talbot Cox did subscribe, but he's since unsubscribed.
He was probably worried about the competition, man. Probably, he probably doesn't want to give you another subscriber to overtake his numbers. Absolutely. So touching on your videos, I kind of want to take you back to an experience that you had, I believe it was last year, where you assisted one of your cyclists within the club with an Ultraman type experience. Can you talk into that? Because it just fascinated me. So
my friend James, who actually lives around the corner and is probably a good podcast guest for you to tap up, he is a bit of a nutcase, and he's an experienced triathlete. So he's been through the same journeys that a lot of us have been in sprint triathlon. I think his first triathlon was Southwell Sprint Tri. He wears the t-shirt quite often.
I've done that one. It's a good one.
And he's done Outlaw Fall, he's done Brutals, and this culminated in him. He had a several year plan. And then he wanted to, I'm trying not to tell too much of his story, so I really hope you get him on. He wanted to do a Deca Ironman, which is an Ironman a day for 10 days. So you do the swim, bike, run every day. The only rule is you have to finish 15 minutes before the next one starts the next day. So you've got 23 hours and 45 minutes to do it. Clearly you can't spend 23 hours, 45 minutes doing it. And he trained for a couple of years doing this, and of course going out riding with him, I've seen that journey, and I documented him, and he's very personable, and he's quite happy to be on videos, so a lot of people knew him through the channel, and I thought, I could be of some help to him here, see if any brands would be interested in supporting him, because of course, like many people, don't have all the money in the world and committing quite a lot of time to this project. I got the time off work. I worked with him for a few months leading up to it. We got some free products, some help towards the event, and so on. And that was brilliant. And then I went along to the event and documented each day in video form. And that was a massive challenge to me. That you'll have to either speak to James or go back and watch the videos. But we had in the first week, one of the guys got COVID, so that meant that I couldn't just be the video guy. Like I had to be massaging his feet and whatever else we did massage his feet. So it was a real roller coaster, but that was an awesome experience to be a part of. I'm so grateful for James to let me do that, because I don't doubt that when he's finishing a day and he's absolutely done in, having me there wanting to say, James, how was your race today? And he'd talk me through it. Like, he'd much rather just go to bed, right? So the videos didn't by any means blow the socks off the internet numbers wise, but that's not the point. We've made this document, he's got this memory, and all the stuff that I was recording he wasn't seeing because he was out riding his bike or swimming or running or something. So it's great memories for him. I absolutely enjoyed it. Obviously, you can't do this sort of thing all the time because there's only so many time commitments, but I was thrilled to be a part of it, and for so many people to come together and to make that sort of thing happen was awesome. And of course, he's inspirational in doing something like that. He's just a normal guy. I train with him, occasionally push him to his limits, not very often. Like, we were in the pool together Thursday night swimming at our local club session, so just a normal bloke, and he's got some plans for the future, which maybe I'll be a part of if I can. And that was just awesome. And I love doing things like that, documenting things that other people do. And I hope that's what sets my channel apart from perhaps some others, because I had my friend Lee, who did the national 24-hour time trial a couple of years ago now, and other examples of people, a local lad, Bert, who wanted to be the second youngest person ever to do an Everest, didn't quite finish it, but was somewhere towards it. I like doing those sorts of things because it tries to give me some, like push myself as a filmmaker or a video maker. And I get to see these people do these really cool things. It's not in any way making me want to do it, because I see how much they hurt when they're doing it.
I was going to ask if it's inspiring to do it or just an absolute no way.
But it's just such a cool experience, and I know that otherwise that what they're doing would perhaps go unnoticed by some people, and if I can offer them some sort of platform for it. So for James's Decker, for example, the main reason we were doing it is because he was fundraising for youth activities in the local area, so in Alfreton, and James had a lot of contacts himself and did a lot of fundraising himself, but a culmination of that and the videos raised something like £14,000.
Oh, incredible.
Like, yeah, absolutely brilliant. And I know that the videos had a big effect on that. I was looking through the donation names, and you see the comments on the videos and the names on there, and you think these people have donated because they've seen this video. Like that makes it all worthwhile, and that's brilliant. So I love being a part of stuff like that. I wish I could do more, but I need to up my own skills a little bit, and a lot, and I can only do so much. Whilst I've still got aims and objectives myself, I can't commit loads of time to go in and video and other things. And I did learn, so last year my friend Dan, who runs a bike fitting place near here, he went and supported Lee Timmis, who broke the 7-day cycling distance world record, and I gave him a camera to take with him, and he was all up for vlogging. He was recording content, uploading it, I was editing it, putting it together, putting the videos out, and the videos didn't do very well, if I'm honest, and I think that's because in some way, Lee was a complete unknown to people who watched the videos, whereas James had been on the channel for months in the lead up, so people perhaps had a connection with him. They didn't to Lee, so people perhaps is interested. So I'm just going to think about that in future. Like, if I'm going to try and make some videos that I think people are going to watch, it would perhaps need to be people who I either make an effort to include in videos for months leading up to it, or people who are already in it.
Yeah, I kind of suppose think about the build up towards.
So think about this as your first exposure before your big challenge.
There you go, exactly. On my first big challenge, please. I don't know where my wife
next year. This year?
I am doing Ironman this year, so that's a challenge enough as it is. As I'm sure if you're listening, you probably would have heard of Ironman Wales if you're into your triathlon, because it's renowned on the circuit. I can't wait to do it again, to be fair. But yeah, it is that kind of. I suppose it's that like we've touched on a few times, that whole balance of training. So for you, Dan, like obviously you've got the job. You've got your training, you've got the content that you also want to put out. Then obviously, training does lead nicely into that. But, when you come to the beginning of a week, obviously it sounds like you've got quite a structured work week, but then, you've got Liz. Let's not forget Liz. Yeah. You've got chickens. And you've got social circles. How do you kind of view a week? How would you structure one of your weeks as such?
Yeah, I think it's different in winter than it is to summer. So I think everything is so much more difficult in winter, and a lot of people listening to this will agree, training's harder, life's harder. When you're getting up and you go into the office, it's dark, and you get home and it's dark, it is hard to do things. It's hard to get on the bike, it's hard to train, it's hard to have an evening meal and be like enthusiastic and like happy and talk to your other half then. So everything's a bit more difficult, and videos as well. I've actually knocked it back, my like video amounts I'm putting out per week, because of that reason. I was getting quite stressed out about trying to think about content ideas and think about, there's only so many times I can sit there and say I've done an hour zone 2 tonight on the bike and come up with something to talk about. So I've just decided to focus on those other areas of my life until it is sort of springtime, and then when I'm going out in Derbyshire in the evenings on a club ride or something, it's easy to make because you see the beautiful scenery and you can then just make a video from that. And same with life, like, Liz, do you want to go out for a bike ride tonight? Yes, perfect. So I probably structure my weeks in the days that I'm at home, I'll try and crack on with the training earlier on, so then I'm done by maybe 6, 6:30, and then I've got like a full evening with Liz, and we might not even do much, we might just sit and watch Gavin and Stacey or something. Whereas the days I'm in the office, I'll perhaps normally try and plan to do some training at lunchtime, so that when I get home, I'm more present. Maybe I'm not training, or maybe I've just got a little session to do, and just try and strike a balance. I think that's key, isn't it? There are some days where, like for example tonight, Liz is going to stay at her parents' house to look after the animals overnight. So I've got a free evening, so I'm going to crack on with loads of this sort of admin and other things because she's not here. And then I know tomorrow I'm only going to do a bike ride in the morning. We've got all afternoon together. So you've got to just think a bit ahead. But Liz is absolutely fine with me letting training take the lead sometimes, but you've got to balance it. So when she says she wants a new bed, I want to go bed shopping. Right, unfortunately, I'm going to have to suck it up and go bed shopping. I'd rather be anywhere else. But like, there's some things you have to just sort of say yes to, isn't it? Just to,
I mean, hey, bed shopping, sure. Like sometimes, early morning session, bed shopping in the afternoon. You could literally test that thing out and have a nap for like 20 minutes. You've got to think about these pockets of time where you can catch up with sleep as well.
I try not to plan too far ahead. I'll try and just only plan the week ahead. And of course, it changes sometimes, doesn't it? If the weather's bad, I won't go out on the bike. So then I've got an evening where I perhaps might say, Liz, do you want to do anything tonight? So we just sort of play it by ear. Sometimes, Liz has got stuff going off as well. So
yeah, because Liz is into a training as well, which do you find that helps?
Yeah, definitely. There's some days where if I'm doing a bike session, she'll come and we'll train in the garage next to each other. So you're still having a chat while you do it. Yeah, brilliant. Still having a chat while you're doing that. So it's easily done when you've got such an understanding partner like I have, but you still got to be realistic that you've got to give that focus.
Always important to say that on podcasts and videos, so extra brownie points there. We both have very understanding partners. We love you. Brilliant. So what does 2023 look like for TriathlonDan? Both on the triathlon side, but then kind of this side that you're doing, the content side as well. It'd be great to get you an insight into that.
So they sort of go hand in hand. I would be lying if I said I don't think about content when I'm thinking about events, but I have to let the events be the main thing that I want to do, because I can't just do an event for a video. It doesn't make financial sense or life sense. Like, I want to do stuff that I want to do, and if I was doing things I didn't want to do, that would just come through in the videos, wouldn't it? Or I wouldn't train for it or something. So this year I'd given real thought to what I wanted to do, and I decided at the end of last year I wanted to try and be more competitive in whatever I did. So last year I'd done a bit of bike racing, done a bit of time trialling, done some team time trialling, and done some triathlons as well, up to Ironman Wales and so on. A bit of everything, and I was sort of average in everything. I thought, that's great, that's fine, but I'd like to give, whilst I'm touch wood relatively young, I'd like to give it a shot at being maybe slightly above average at something. And for a while I thought that was going to be bike racing, because I had more success on the bike last year than I did in triathlon. I won a third cat crit, I was second in some other race, and then as a team, me and my friends locally, we had some success at road races and crits as a team. So although I might not have won the race that day, I might be pivotal.
You're part of that environment,
you've either brought a brake back, or you've got somebody else up the road, something like that. You've played a part in it, and I love that. I'm not always about just me getting results, so cycling to me stood out as that. But I think cycling is something I could pick up competitively in later life, whereas triathlon, particularly the running, I think is difficult to be good at later in life. There are lots of people that break the mold and are great runners later in life, but I saw the next couple of years as being more triathlon focused. Having a job and having a life, I think it's really hard to train for an Ironman, so full distance. And I've never really been able to do it properly, I don't think. So therefore I thought, right, I'm going to do middle distance triathlons for a year, and I'm going to give it my all. I think the training's more manageable. I think the training's more exciting. You can do more high intensity stuff. You're not having to do as much volume. So today I've gurned through 3 hours on the turbo, but if I was thinking about an early season like Ironman, I'd be having to do 4 or 5 or even more. So 3 hours is longer than hopefully a bike split will take me. That's absolutely fine. So I'm doing the whole Outlaw series now. I do some work with Outlaw, so I'm looking forward to being involved with them this year. I've done a lot of the events before. A lot of them are really local to me and to us here, as you know, so we don't have to stay overnight, don't have to travel for hours, don't have to fly anywhere. And all that's a real big thing. Like, I haven't got to book any time off work. It's really accessible cost-wise. A couple of other things I'm doing is Cork 70.3. I felt like I've got unfinished business there. I snapped a chain last year while I was on it, so I was having a good day otherwise. I'm going to get to that. And I said I'm not going to do any bike racing, but I find myself now having entered a few crits, and I'm absolutely fine with that. I think I'm just going to do a bit of everything again, but I'm focusing on the training on triathlon, so I can't expect many or any results in the other disciplines. I like time trialing because it's a completely different world. The ride is completely different. You're going hard and then easy for a couple of minutes, then hard again, and you're trying to look after the person in the team who perhaps isn't having a good day. Most of the time, that's me. And it's like a whole different race, like a whole different thing to think about. So I'm just getting stuck in. I'm just going to do as much as I can. I'm doing a bit of gravel riding this year. I don't have a gravel bike yet, but apparently in 9 or 10 weeks I'm doing the Dirty Reaver, which is a 200-kilometre gravel sporty.
I saw you post about this, so I'm really intrigued. 200k.
The main reason for doing it is I see so many people like we do doing gravel riding, and I've had my fair few experiences with drivers on the road, and if I can reduce the amount of time riding on the road, I think that's great for everybody involved. So I'm going to try and do a bit of off-road riding. I've been doing a bit on my mountain bike, but it is like an X-High mountain bike from Sherwood Pines. It's £300. It's not suitable for me to ride 200 kilometres on. And some of my friends are going and doing Dirty Reaver. So there's 5 people, they booked the weekend, we're all in. 6 even numbers makes it a bit easier. I'm like, done, I'm in. Like, I'm going to have a great weekend away with my friends. I love the idea of riding a bike for 200 kilometres. I hadn't thought of it until now, but now I'm more thinking about looking at bike specs and looking at courses, and my mates are going out training at the weekends on gravel instead of on the road. I'm like, I can really see myself getting into this. I think physically it'll suit me quite well because it's quite a torquey effort, so it's quite the rolling resistance is really high. You're thinking about nutrition, pacing, all the things we do in triathlon. So I'm looking forward to it, but again, I'm not taking it too seriously. I'm not going to go and win any gravel races, but I'm going to go and get stuck in and give it my all.
I think it's about that balance, isn't it? And you actually see a lot of the pros actually mixing it up a little bit more.
Absolutely.
And I think you've got to have fun with it because I think triathlon can be a really serious sport. Like, everyone you meet sometimes at races can be really serious. Don't get me wrong, there's a whole bunch of people who are really fun, but I think there is sometimes you can just get duped into being so serious. So it's good to have that fun.
I don't want it to come across like I'm not bothered about performance, because I am, but I'm just realistic that if let's say I packed in work and I trained for the next year, I'm still not going to win a race, and therefore there's no point getting hung up about that. But the thing I like about bike racing over triathlon is that I'm in the race and it's a race. Triathlon for 95% of people is an individual time trial, myself included. So that's also something I enjoy, but there's only so many individual time trials I can do. I quite like the idea of, in a bike race, you start on the same start line, you're next to other people, you're banging elbows with people, and you only got to be a metre in front of them, you've won the race. So it's exciting, and there's team dynamics and course dynamics and all this sort of thing, and it is good, but triathlon is still my first love, I think, and I still definitely want to focus.
Are you going to be running the race that you ran last year again this year?
Fortunately not. It took a huge amount of time to organise, and there's a huge amount of financial risk with it as well. I think particularly coming into a year where there's a cost of living crisis, I don't know as if events would be breaking even as much. So for example, the numbers were something like the committed cost to it was just over $3,000. So if I hadn't have driven the revenue to just over $3,000, down, I can't be spending money on organising a race. Now it was in a league, and the league had a central fund that they would have used to cover it, but I'd rather not have done that. I would love to organise more events in the future, but when I've got time to give it full focus. The course is going to be used, because it was a new course that we've got sort of approved for that event. The course is going to be used again this year, I believe, for the East Midlands Regional Championships, which is a brilliant thing to say. We sort of had this course approved and used it for the first time.
You build foundations upon which...
And now other organisers seen that, seen how well the race ran last time, and wants to use it for a championship race. Brilliant. I'll go in, I'll be a marshal or I'll support or something. And we're also... me and my friends are supporting a local organiser at Harvey Haddon, but we're going along and just marshalling for the evening. So it's another
Is that the Friday night races?
Wednesday nights, though.
Wednesday nights, are they? Okay.
So we did a few last year, and different clubs all supported it. So Thomas Hutchinson, great lad in the local area, does all the legwork, all the admin. We just have to turn up and marshal in the evening, and that's what we can commit to, what I can commit to. I can't commit to months of work again, and there's work afterwards as well, and I sympathise for event organisers, because I wasn't doing it for a living. If I was doing that and I was an event organizer for a job, I wouldn't be able to eat for one, and I think the stress would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
All I needed to do was break even. That if people are trying to make a living out of it, I don't know how it's possible.
I mean, I'm hopeful to get a couple of event organisers on in the next kind of 5 to 6 episodes, so it'll be interesting.
All sorts of stuff goes on. On that day at the road race, we had armed police turn up, a local village councillor, and some of the people not happy about parking and stuff. And there's all these different challenges. Email some people who live on the course who are unhappy that people are cycling around it. All these things come up, and you're like, God, this was really hard.
So, what did the armed police turn up for?
Because we had a race in the morning and a race in the afternoon. We had, I can't remember which way around it was, but we had a women's race one in the day and a men's in the other. But there's a bit of crossover, and I was trying to do the presentation for one so I could get them gone, and the other team were arriving. So there was lots of cars, people parked on the street. So the locals had called the police, unhappy with that, and the police came and they said, we haven't come because we've been called out. We're in the area and there've been some calls. So obviously there was armed police in the area for some reason. And I asked,
in the middle of Derbyshire, in the middle of the Peak District. If you've been to the Peak District, you'll kind of know that maybe armed police aren't really necessarily always in that area.
Yeah, but they said we've driven around and nobody's actually breaking any laws. They're not parked on pavements or anything, but if you could alleviate it, that'd be great. I was like, yeah, I will do. I just need to go and get this presentation. But if the thing that made that day happen was I had 17 people from my cycling club all come and volunteer their time to drive cars, to cook food, to make food for marshals, to car park marshal. All these little jobs that actually make a big task, and the day was an absolute success, but I couldn't have done it without them. Sure, I put the work in the lead up, but that day would not have happened without those volunteers. So
yeah, I think with a lot of things in life, and especially within these kind of events world, especially with triathlon, you always see emails go out volunteers do make the world go round, and it's kind of like triathlon and racing world.
I think goodwill definitely in triathlon is there, isn't it? Every race you do, there will be volunteers and marshals that aren't paid to be there helping the event run. So if you're ever doing a race, I know you might be pushing hard, but just give them a shout to say thanks, Marshall, or thank you for something like that. I find it motivating for me to keep going. So
yeah, I mean, always. I mean, it might sound like sometimes thanks, Marshall.
Yeah,
thanks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always good to
they know what you mean,
because they always have a good smile on their face. Yeah. So one thing that I want to touch on with every guest on this is what do you think has been the best bit of kit that you've bought, and what has been one of the worst bits of kit that you've bought?
I mean, I bought a lot of kit, like many people. You go through things. I think there's definitely something in fancy trainers. I absolutely feel faster running in fancy foam, and I recover quicker, but I don't know if that's a placebo. But if it's a placebo, it is an effect.
Yeah, it's not a bad placebo time, is it?
If I had to pick one piece of equipment, I don't even know, probably a power meter. I think that just gives you the edge to be able to accurately pace an effort, to know if you're going too hard or not. And I think that makes a big difference in your performance, not going out too hard and blowing up. Although that's still possible and proven by me to be possible to do. But I think a power meter is probably the best. Worst, I think there's a lot of gimmicks in the triathlon world, isn't there? So things like, I won't name any brands, but I don't buy into this cold water stuff. I'm not sure I buy into lotions you put on your legs and it makes you load stronger.
Is there anything you have bought into that you've been like,
I think I'm pretty good at steering clear of things that are a fad, but I'll definitely buy a skin suit because it says it's been wind tunnel tested, it's the fastest one, and then another one comes out and you buy the next one, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm probably a bit of a sucker for that, but I still just think, well, it's an item of clothing, I'm going to wear it anyway. I'm not winning races by half a second, so it doesn't matter. So I'm a bit of a sucker for the marketing stuff, but I try and look into what I can.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm similar to you. I do disagree with the cold water stuff, but just in terms of I suppose it's individual, isn't it? The recovery that I feel afterwards, is great at times. It's never nice getting in, but I think I can often be duped by some of the advertisements in terms of, like you say, all those kind of marginal gains. Yeah. But then when I think, actually, if I just spend that little bit more time on the trainer, I'll probably get the marginal gains there first before I have to go and buy something to achieve that.
That's it. I think Alistair Brownlee says something different. So something similar. He says something like, you can get too obsessed with all the pebbles at the bottom of the beach that you need to turn over to get those little gains, and you've missed those big boulders at the top that are sleep, eat, train.
That is a great analogy, to be fair. Absolutely.
I should claim that was my own version.
Oh, you should, yeah.
It wasn't nice about it, was me.
I don't think he wrote it down in his book, so I think you'll be fine. So finally on to our kind of quick fire round, okay? So you've probably heard this before, thankfully, because you have listened to it, which is great, and thank you for that. So, coffee or tea?
Tea.
Tea.
Yorkshire tea.
First tea drinker.
Yeah.
First tea drinker.
I love coffee, but I prefer tea.
Sweet or savoury?
Sweet.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Night owl, 100%.
Track session or morning swim?
Track session.
T1 or T2?
T2.
T2, okay. Favourite book or podcast non-triathlon or training related?
Well, we are blessed with lots of podcasts in the sport and triathlon world. There is one I do like. In a previous life, I was a bit of a petrol head, and there's one that's called Seen Through Glass. And he's a guy that lives in London, but he's successfully made YouTube his business and his life, so I like hearing that sort of stuff. But he also talks about the car market, the cars he's bought, the cars he's sold, what he's driven, that sort of thing. So yeah, Seen Through Glass is a good listen.
Brilliant. Favourite book or podcast triathlon related or training?
I mean, I think I like Triathlon Mockery because it isn't too serious.
Yeah.
I like listening to some of the sciencey stuff, but if I'm honest, I'm just a bit like, well, unless I'm actually going to take some specific action from this and change how I train or live, then there's no point in me listening to it. And I feel like I do what I can now anyway, so probably Triathlon Mockery. Yeah,
Triathlon Mockery is a good one. It's had a couple of mentions before, so I think, like you say, there's a really serious side to triathlon, but it's nice to hear, kind of one pro, and no offence, Tom used to date one semi-pro, talk about triathlon in a bit more of a jokey way.
Lifestyle athlete.
That's it, the lifestyle athlete, isn't it? Shout out, Tom. Your most enjoyable race today?
So I think people will gravitate towards big races for this. So you'll know from Wales, Ironman Wales is incredible and is probably what most people would say is enjoyable. But I think you can have a great time just at smaller events. So I've done the Derby Sprint Try.
Yeah,
and good. And one of my friends was in it as well, and it was pretty close between us. He beat me by 7 seconds. Cheers, Dean. But I really enjoyed that, knowing that it was time trial start, but it was, knowing that roughly where we are against each other, knowing the roads, knowing that you're absolutely going for it. So I think sometimes maybe like a Derby Sprint or something like that.
I thought you say Derby 10 mile, but your favourite athlete to follow?
I mean, I follow so many. I like the athletes with the personality. So like your Cam Worth, Hayden Wild, just because of how he races as well, I suppose. A lot of Aussies and Kiwis in there, isn't there? Maybe Ash Gentle as well. She's another Aussie, isn't she?
Yeah.
I think they've got a bit more like banter in them, but also I think that makes them more confident in their racing, so they animate the race a bit more. So Hayden Wild, for example, in the WTCS series, he's always attacking, isn't he? He's always trying to get a break. Yeah. Whereas, I mean, maybe it's to his detriment sometimes, who knows? But I like that. I think that shows something about the people.
Yeah. The fight and the fire. Well, Dan, thank you so much for the last hour of your time. It's been absolutely brilliant. If you watched on Dan's channel, thanks for staying with us. The sun's now shining on my face. But
that's why I sat here to put you under pressure.
Yeah, no, I look forward to hopefully seeing you at more races this year, seeing more content coming out. Like I said, I'm going to put all the links for Dan's stuff. I mean, if you could just tell them yourself where they can find you, Dan.
Thanks very much. Yes, before we get on to that, if you're listening to this and you think you've got some sort of story to share, or even if you haven't, at John T, get in his inbox, because I'm sure you're looking for.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Don't think that you're not interested enough or important enough or good enough to do this. I've quite clearly proved the opposite today. So
everyone's got a story.
Hopefully you've got something from that. I'm on the YouTube channel, TriathlonDan, HeyDW on Instagram, and my normal name, Daniel Ward, on Strava. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I got something from it. And John T, I will see you out there on the racecourse this year.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you all so much for listening again. Really appreciate the fact that you've given me your attention. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. And yeah, you can find us on Instagram at Work Hard, Try Harder.
And rate it. That's what podcasters do, isn't it? I did it this morning.
Oh, thank you. No, that might be the first one. Cheers.